Today we're going to be talking about how Kate Bowler, David Bentley Hart, Marcus Aurelius, C.S. Lewis, and myself each have different views and perspectives about the topic of natural evil and how it kind of affects one another. And there's different viewpoints that we can kind of take from each other. Alright, so we're going to start off with Kate Bowler, and I would just like to state that she did have cancer. I think she did currently have cancer at the time of this video. And immediately, like the second from her diagnosis, she had a very like why me mentality, and she kind of victimizes herself in that sense. So like that automatically just kind of shows like her perspective on like how different things, like how natural evil works, which cancer is a natural evil in this scenario in her situation. So I just kind of want to say that like she all her entire life she just kind of went based off of like the like good things happen to good people, like karma, like those kind of things. She really did that, and she kind of also relied on like the gospel of optimism, and that kind of failed her with her cancer diagnosis coming up. Like she just has a son, like she'd just given birth to her son, and now she has cancer. So like how is that fair? Like, and then you get people saying like somebody I think in the hospital told her husband like everything happens for a reason, and like what's the reason? Who, like, what did she do to deserve this? So it's like everybody says that like life is beautiful and hard, and there's different things that like have perspective of that, but why does a good person who does good things wind up getting cancer? So like natural evil kind of chose her in such like an unfair way, because like it's very unfair. She was chosen. She does everything good. She has a son, and she ended up with cancer. So sorry for the dog. Okay, so now we have David Bentley Hart. So he obviously he has a very like Christian type of viewpoint based on this, and he felt as if God failed. Like he states in his article, it says, feel some pressure of spontaneous resentment towards God. How like God is supposed to be our ultimate protector. He shields us, does everything that we need, and yet he still lets like natural disasters happen and like kill like good innocent people, children who didn't get to see the world, didn't get to do their own experiences, and just all those type of things. And yet God has failed us, and yet he also sticks by our side, which it's just very like you gotta like kind of weigh it in a way. It's just like I can feel the contradiction that David Bentley Hart is feeling in this like situation. Like he manages to protect but also fail in a way. I don't necessarily want to say fail, but kind of like let us down in a sense, because innocent people do die and because of natural evil, natural disasters, and kind of anything to do with nature. He also says, when I see the death of a child, I do not see the face of God, but the face of his enemy. So I feel like this, my perspective based on this is he may have lost the battle, but he did not lose the war, which I think is a bigger picture that we all kind of need to look at in this sense, because you might just lose the battle, but you still got so many other battles, so many other wars, which for God, that's an eternity long. So just got to keep in mind that God does do way more good than he allows evil to happen. So Marcus Aurelius, as we can see, I just want to point out the fact that two of these quotes mainly stuck out to me. Like these ones just jumped right out to me from the chapters in the book. So let's just go ahead and start off with, no matter what happens, keep this in mind. It's the same old thing from one end of the world to the other. Which I believe my perspective on this quote is evil is inescapable. no matter where you go, you can't hide from it. There is going to be evil. You turn around, you walk down the street, it's there. And it's like, it's inescapable. So I believe that Marcus Aurelius in that just kind of like really emphasized that like God is there, but however, so is evil. And the other quote that stuck out to me is, the whole is compounded by a nature of individual parts whose destruction is inevitable. If the process is harmful to the parts and unavoidable, then it's hard to see how the whole can run smoothly, with parts of it passing from one state to another. Whatever happens, happens. We can't control every outcome. Like, that gets us in the topic of free will, which we're not going to travel down. But we have, like, we can't control it. Like, there is harmful parts and unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It kind of speaks for itself on there. So does my dog. But, like, Marcus Aurelius on this, he just emphasized it very well. And it's great. All right, so this one brings us to the topic of C.S. Lewis, which I think he is very informational on this topic of natural evil because he has two very different viewpoints. So at first, we're going to go ahead and start off with before his wife died, which at that point is like seems meaningless. We can't do it all. Like, what's the point of life? And then after his wife died is kind of like when he kind of takes a bigger grasp of the whole picture. He can kind of see it. And then, like he says, he has inadequate light. He wishes he had been able to suffer instead of his wife. Now, let's just go ahead and point out the fact that his wife got sick, I think, very fast. But it was like a very tough sickness. I don't know if they said which kind of illness it was. But she suffered long and hard and then ultimately died. But he always has like survivor's guilt almost, kind of like why couldn't it have been me? Which I think we can kind of see mirroring, I guess, kind of the opposite of how Kate Bowler was. But so he just kind of had this perspective all throughout his life, or for the second half of his life after his wife had died. But like it's such a turnaround versus the beginning of his life, because in like the beginning of his life he was more of like, we can't see it all, we have to kind of just do what you're meant to do almost, but also it's meaningless. But then like towards the end of his life, in the face of death, he finally experienced hope, and it's just kind of like that's kind of when he experiences hope is about the same time that he experiences meaning throughout his life. Okay. So now we have differences in thinkers, and I believe that C.S. Lewis and Kate Bowler are very strong. They're both very strong in their viewpoints against natural evil, but I also feel like they kind of differ because C.S. Lewis, as I mentioned just in the previous slide, he wished that he could have suffered instead of his wife. He wishes that his wife would not have had to go through the pain, would not have had to die, would not have had to do the illness. Meanwhile, Kate Bowler wonders why she got chosen. She, like, almost as if she's too good to have gotten cancer. I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of like an analogy that I think works for this. But it's like why did she have to suffer? She did all these good things throughout her life. She had just gave birth to her son, and now she has cancer. Like, dang it, why me? Meanwhile, he's like, why not me? So I feel like these are two very different perspectives on natural evil, but I guess to each their own with the way that they see it. I'm obviously not dogging on either of them for the way they view it. It's just natural evil. You can't really control it. You can't change it. You can just hope and pray for the best. Okay, so this also brings us to the point of where they agree. So we can go ahead and start off with the fact that nature is not out to get us. I feel like neither of them really, or any of them really stated this, but it was very implied with the way that they just noticed how, like, it just, like, if it happens to you, it happens to you. Like nobody is targeted when a tsunami occurs. Nobody is targeted for cancer. Like nobody just like, yeah, that one's meant for you. You're going to have to go through this in your life. And I feel like this is just a very like strong argument and appeal, because it's like, why does this happen to me? Or couldn't have this happen to me? Or why did this have to happen to that person? Just kind of something in that order. But even with all these scenarios occurring, it kind of brings us back to the part like where it's like God will protect us. Like God is always going to be there. He's going to be there at the end. He might miss a couple of seconds of your life, but like he's gonna be there in the end. So I feel like each one of those is kind of will kind of do it. No matter like what part of your life that you're gonna be in, he's gonna be there. And then one thing is that Aurelius and Lewis both point out the fact of the big picture. So I feel like this is very strong because especially like people our age, like college students, stuff like that, they're all just kind of narrowing things down, like living in the moment, which I feel like is good, but you also kind of have to look at the big picture, look at your future, look at your past, and just kind of take it all in. Okay, so my viewpoints right here. I'm just going to go ahead and go down this list real quick. It's good things happen to good people. Everything happens for a reason. God will protect us when needed. I feel like that's the main one right there, because we need God, but we also need to kind of like, you got to get injured to grow. You have to be able to kind of learn from your mistakes. And I feel like without God being there, it can kind of help us do that. And then finally, like the end of your life is not the end of your soul. Like, you can keep moving on. So I feel like that's a big thing to take on, especially like when you're in a hard part in your life. Just realize that there's going to be more. So yeah, thank you.